Hi folks, welcome to another episode of the Deep Dive series. In this episode, we are going to continue talking about the budget for the financial year 2022 to 2023. In the last episode, we took a look at the structure of the budget. What is the entire structure of the budget, which was the budget divided into two, the revenue budget and the capital budget. Now in this video, and we also talked about what each of these terms mean and what constitutes the parameters for counting the numbers. Now, in this video, we are going to look at the actual numbers for the financial year 2021 to 2022 and the budget estimates for the given budget of 2022 to 2023. So the structure of budget is divided into two, the revenue budget and the capital budget. We have seen all of these terms, what these terms mean and what they constitute of, what the numbers are. Now we are going to look at the exact numbers. So the total receipts is the sum of the revenue receipts and the capital receipts. This is the total receivables. So this is the money which comes in. The sum is 39.45 lakh crores. Now every number which is going to be in the chart is going to be in lakh crores and also in rupee. So it is 39.45 lakh crore rupees, and the total expenditure is again 39.45 lakh crores. Now how do we reach to this number is we take a stock of the expenditures that we are going to incur throughout the year in the central sector schemes, centrally sponsored scheme, the pensions, the defense budget, and all the interest payments for the loans we took, and thus we get to a point where we are sure of the expenditure of the country, and then we take the borrowings along with the revenue receipts to match this number. So the differential between this number we fill up with borrowing the money either from other governments or RBI. So the revenue budget and the capital budget, we talked about the expenditures and the income. Now the tax revenue, the total tax revenue was 19.35 lakh crores and the non-tax revenue was 2.69 lakh crores. In the capital receipts, which is this part, there are three main things which we need to talk about. Now recovery of loans was at 0.14. So this constitutes the interest payments which are received by the government. The disinvestment was at 0.65. So this is the forecasted number. So 0.65 lakh crores. And the actual estimate was 1.75 lakh crores. So there is a big difference between the revised estimate and the projected disinvestment which was put forward last year. Whereas the actual number which we have realized so far is only 9,300 crores. So it's even lesser than the 65,000 crores which we are projecting by the end of the financial year. We have only completed 9,300 crores. And the borrowings is at 16.61 lakh crores. 16.61 lakh crores. So these are the numbers. So if you look at all of these numbers, you'll see that disinvestment, even though it is pegged at 1.75 lakh crores, later revised to 0.65, is only a small fraction of the entire capital receipts, where the capital receipts are 17.4 lakh crores. So you can see, to make the 17.4 lakh crores for capital receipts, the majority of it comes from borrowing. So this is the income source which is put forward in the budget of 2023. And you'll see that it is more or less the same as the revised estimate or the budget estimate. If you look at that as well, it has been more or less the same. So the numbers do not change a lot. So you need to be very careful about what these numbers are and in what order are the income sources from. So the majority of the money which comes in is from borrowings and other liabilities. So this is the money which we borrow from either the other governments or RBI or other financial institutions, and it makes up 35% of the total money which comes in. So this is a lot. The second is goods and services tax, which is the GST. So the GST collection makes up about 16% of the overall income of the country. The corporation tax, the income tax, union excise duties, and customs. All of these make up as tax. The other part is the non-tax revenue and the non-debt capital receipts, which make only a small fraction of this number. So the three things which we need to be careful about is the tax part, which is 16, 15, 15, 7 and 5. So 12, 30, 42, 48, 58% comes from tax. 35 comes from 35% of the total income comes from borrowing and other liabilities, and only the remaining portion, which is 7%, comes from other sources, which are non-tax revenue and non-debt capital receipts. Now, this is one important thing which you need to be very careful about, is where the money comes in from. There are going to be a lot of questions in the interviews, because interviewers are interested in knowing whether you know where the money is coming from, and you need to be sure about the individual percentages. Similarly, you'll need to be very careful on the expenditure sources as well. So how much money is being spent and where it is being spent. So this is the budget estimate of 22 to 23. Again, you'll see that if you take the parallel between 21-22 budget and the 2023 budget, it is more or less the same. So percentages do not change a lot. So the interest payment, which is the interest paid on the borrowings, in the previous slide, we looked at 35% income, which is being generated by borrowings. 20% of the money which is being made inside the country, 20% of it is used up to pay for the interests. Next comes the state's share of taxes and duties. So whatever the manufacturing, whatever the services are in individual states, the central has to pay the share of the governments, the share of the individual states, and this constitutes 17%, as you can see in the pie chart as well. So this is the corresponding, so you can start off the interest payments from here, and the pensions will end up here. So moving on, the central sector schemes and the centrally sponsored scheme together make up about 24%. And these include the schemes like Manrega, White Revolution, the Green Revolution, National Education Mission, National Health Mission, etc. So you can find a list of about 50-60 schemes in the budget and look at the allocation made towards each of these schemes. So the Finance Commission and other transfers include the grants toward the local bodies and the other urban bodies. These include the grants direct transfer towards the municipal corporations, because the cities are self-governing, and directly these transfers are made towards the cities. This also includes the State Disaster Relief Fund, SDRF. Then next comes defense, which is 8% of the total expenditure, same as subsidies. So all of the commodities which are subsidized in India make up about 8% of the total expenditure. And the defense sector, which is the military and the R&D, totally makes up about 8%. The pensions make up about 4%, and there are other expenditures as well. So you can gauge how much the total money is being spent in different areas. So there are 4 priorities being laid down in this budget. The first one being the Pradhan Mantri Gati Shakti, which is to facilitate the faster movement of both people and goods. For this, there are several plans which are formulated. National Master Plan aimed at the world-class modern infrastructure and logistics synergy. For this, the plan is to lay down 25,000 kilometers of national highways in the financial year. Unified logistics interface platform, allowing data exchange among all mode operators. So all the modes of transport. For these operators, there will be seamless transfer of data, so that the just-in-time approach for logistics can be achieved, and there is access to the real-time data to the operators. These are some more schemes for the Gati Shakti program. Integration of postal and railways network, facilitating parcel movement. One station, one product. Extending coverage under Kavach scheme. 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains. So a lot more of the rolling stock being introduced. One class, one TV channel, which is under the PM E-Vidya program, is going to be expanded from 12 channels to 200 channels. Virtual labs are being created to enforce the skill development. Digital ecosystem for skilling and livelihood, which is the Desh Stack E portal, will be launched to promote online training and online line university is also established to bring in the world class education. Startups will be promoted to facilitate drone shakti for drone as a service. So drone as a service is something which is government uh, really emphasizing on. So farming is one sector where government is planning to introduce drone as a service, which is using of using of drones to monitor the crops, to help in irrigation and using of fertilizers and insecticides, and promote the image processing to look for the diseases in the crops. So the budget also emphasized on the financing of investments, wherein these investments are part of the capital expenditure. So anything which is for the long-term future of the country, whether it be in terms of the tangible machinery or buildings or development of infrastructure, or whether it be to promote healthcare facilities and education, which is for the human resources, any kind of expenditure incurred for the benefit for the long term benefit of the country is known as the capital expenditure. So it also includes the cost of acquiring permanent assets such as land, as well as government investment that yield future earnings or dividends. So this is a graph from the budget of the year 2022 to 2023, wherein you can see there is a relative upward trend in the capital expenditure, which is the blue dashed line, and the red line shows the revenue expenditure as a percentage of the total expenditure. Although the graph is relatively skewed because the capital expenditure of the country is not more than the revenue expenditure, the actual graph would look like something like this, wherein this would still be at around 81% and the capital expenditure would be around 19% of the total expenditure. So the graph seems to tell a different story because the capital expenditure is still not over revenue expenditure. The majority portion of the expenditure is made up by the revenue expenditure, but the government is taking actions into taking initiatives to increase the capital expenditure of the country. So there is still an increase in the capital expenditure of 35.4%, which is a healthy number, and now it is pegged at 7.5 lakh crores. For public capital investment, the government is looking at four major arms, which is the gold bonds, the infrastructure status, venture capital and private equity investment, and blended finance for sunrise sectors. For green bonds, the country is looking at the year 2070, where at COP26 the government of India promised that it will become the net zero emitter of carbon. So for the year 2070, for this, the government is mobilizing money onto green bonds, where people will be provided bonds, so where they can pool in the money, and this money will be used in mobilizing resources for the green infrastructure. So infrastructure status is given to data centers and energy storage systems. So these can be energy grids for electric vehicles or power grids. So these will be given the status of infrastructure. Venture capital and private equity investment. India saw a huge change in the number of private equity investment last year. We also have this number in our GDPI preparation kit. There is a PDF on startups. You can go ahead and look into all the startups and all the venture capital that came in during the year 2021. And the government is trying to boost this number even further and create channels to introduce both venture capital and private equity, blended finance for sunrise sectors, the sectors involving climate action, deep tech, digital economy, pharma, agri-tech, etc. All of these, government is trying to include the public capital investment where people can pull in the money, and government share will be up to 20%. So this will give the majority of stake to public capital, and a lot of public capital will be introduced in such sectors which will help the country in the longer run. So the government is also looking forward to introducing the digital rupee, which is the central bank digital currency, also called the CBDC. So this also is based on the blockchain technology, and this will be tethered to the Indian rupee. So whatever the value of Indian rupee is, the CBDC will also have the same value. So it will essentially be a rupee in a digital form. So the government is looking forward to introducing the digital rupee because of the immense investments being made in the cryptocurrency market, whether it be Bitcoin, Ether, Ripple, Solana, or other cryptocurrencies where people are throwing in a lot of money. With the government's plan to introduce digital rupee, it has made its stance very clear on the concept of digital currency, wherein people were using the currency more as an asset. So the government has imposed a hefty 30% tax on the gains made on the cryptocurrencies or any kind of digital assets for that matter. So it can also be NFTs as well. So government has made its stance very clear. So there are different tax proposals also in the budget. So the taxpayer can file updated return on payment of taxes within 2 years from the end of the relevant assessment. So there is an extended period wherein if there is some update in the returns, the taxpayer can file the updated return within 2 years. So for crypto assets, the government has also introduced TDS, wherein 1% TDS will be charged for transactions over a certain threshold, and if any crypto assets or any digital assets are gifted to other person, the assets will be taxed in the recipient's hands. The government also made its stance clear on long-term capital gains, wherein all the capital gains for long-term is subject to a surcharge of 15%, regardless of what kind of asset it is. Tax on proceeds of digital assets. So the government also introduced a 30% tax on the transfer of any kind of digital asset. This seems to be a big number, but it is not, because it curbs the heavy investment on cryptocurrency market, which is highly volatile, and also paves the way for government to introduce its own cryptocurrency. And it also made it very clear that no set-off is permitted against any other income. So in the previous video, we also discussed this, but let's revisit. So these are your crypto assets or your digital assets, and these are your other income sources. And if you have a net profit here, you cannot offset a net loss in crypto assets, or the other way around, whether it be negative and this positive. A person cannot set off their profits from different assets or different income sources together and pay on the net profits. They have to pay their taxes for the crypto assets, regardless if they made a profit anywhere else.